Hi, I'm Caitlin,
And I'm Brianna.
and welcome to the Readers Clubhouse, where we revisit our childhood favorite content. Guys, we've got another guest today. Second guest episode in a row, I might add. Not the
Oh,
way
that's
we're
great.
Hello.
recording it,
Yeah.
but it's the
Oh,
way I'll be
wait, the
posting.
way it's
Fine.
being released. All
Yes.
right.
We have my friend Ben here, and you might notice, for the first time ever, our podcast is finally international.
I need to sound super English
Yeah.
while we're recording
Can you
this.
do an American accent?
Um, Not one that I'm willing to have recorded.
Okay.
That's
Fair
so
enough.
valid.
That's how I feel about British accents. Everybody here is like, Caitlin, you're talking a British accent now. I'm like, I truly do not. If you listened to any person
I
who's
just,
actually British,
I
I don't.
can, yeah, I can confirm you don't.
Thank you. I appreciate the confirmation because, yeah, that's what I keep telling all the people. We have my friend Ben here, from the land of tea and biscuits, aka London. You know what's funny to me, actually?
What
I
was
wanted to
that?
tell
Hold
you.
on, the land of tea and biscuits. I mean,
Yeah.
that's an English stereotype. I'm not sure London can quite, as much as I appreciate you introducing me as from London and not Birmingham. Um,
You're welcome.
I'm not sure London can lay claim to tea and biscuits.
I feel like none of the major cities really can because of how vastly
No,
multicultural and ethnic they are. But it was just, it worked. The land of tea and biscuits, also from London. There you go.
indeed.
From the
Yes,
land of
well,
tea and
thank you.
biscuits, and also from London. Um,
Subcategory London, yeah.
I mean, that's not today's not the time or place to discuss London. We could have just had Ben on to talk
That'd
about
be my
London.
nostalgic theme, would just be London.
I mean, how
The
many
first
years
place.
has it been
Yeah.
Hey,
since you lived
look,
there?
it's the setting of multiple pieces of media. It would have worked.
Well,
That is true.
exactly.
That is true. And
Endless episodes.
our main series for this podcast is written by a British person. He's not from London, he's from Liverpool, though. Now I'm thinking about it. Just kidding.
Oh,
Anyway, um, my question for you both today is, what is your favorite music genre?
ooh. Brianna, do you want to go first?
Sure. It's really hard, honestly.
So it's the person who came up with the question.
Yes. I trying to figure it out, and then we started. I was like, oops. So I kind of I'm gonna say pop, but that's too broad, obviously, in some ways. But I don't know. I don't know how to like narrow it down more to like kind of what I like. I like a lot of stuff is part of the
Mhm.
problem. Like my whole thing is I love songs that like make you feel things and also has a good tune a lot of the
Mhm.
time. Um and but something that is a little bit more I can actually say is Japanese pop.
Yep. I was waiting for that.
J-pop. Yeah. So that's actually I will always go back to that a lot of the time. And it's also a very broad thing, and that's just an umbrella. There's like many different genres underneath that as well. And a lot of the ones that I know are because I watch anime, and I
Mhm.
really love a good intro or outro song, as Caitlin
It's true.
knows. There's been times I've watched terrible anime and I'm like, why is the opening such a banger? Like this is such a terrible anime. Um so yeah, that actually is a really big one. Uh a specific artist that I can point out that is and isn't J-pop, but they are a musical I forget the right way to put it because they're Japanese American, but
Mm.
it's more of like their secondary citizenship is being American and they're
Mhm.
mainly from Japan. But Utada Hikaru,
Oh yeah.
if
Oh yeah.
anybody has played Kingdom Hearts, the
Simple and
songs
clean.
Simple and Clean and Sanctuary, those are
Wow.
really good.
I
Yeah.
remember having
So
MP3 downloads of those on my MP3 player
oh
in
yeah.
middle
And I've
school.
been listening to their stuff more recently and it's still really good. So
Oh,
but I again their stuff is under the umbrella of J-pop because they are from that area. And I wouldn't even
mhm.
necessarily say that's like fully J-pop kind of thing. It just kind of depends. But yeah, sorry. That's a long
Oh.
description about what I like.
Yeah, that's great.
Yes.
Love it. Ben, what about you?
Well, that's interesting. I've heard of people. I know a few people who are fans of K-pop. I've
Yes.
not come across J-pop yet. But
K-pop groups are way too big.
okay.
It's too
I've
many people.
also a friend has been introducing me to some anime, and I
Mhm.
will agree that the opening songs are um disproportionately good for being just like the
It's
themes for
so
a
true,
series. Like
man.
you're like they didn't need to go this hard, but they do every
Oh
time, and I
yeah.
love it.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't say that that therefore J-pop is a favorite genre of mine. Um, I would okay, like everybody, I go, oh, I listen to all sorts of things.
Mhm.
Probably a favorite genre would be prog rock. It was quite it certainly started as a very English genre.
Mhm.
It's short for progressive rock, which isn't a political statement. It's about the idea that it was meant to be something that evolved and explored new kind of
Mm.
unexplored things that you could do with music, whilst
Oh.
also drawing on classical music and jazz and various other kinds of world music, which I know is a very kind of broad phrase. But it started kind of in late 60s, early 70s, a little bit of the Beatles, bands like Genesis,
Mm.
Yes, Pink Floyd, kind of some of the big ones. But it's still around. The irony being that it hasn't changed that much since the 70s. Um,
Uh-oh.
Hang on a minute. It's
which
been
for
50 years.
yeah, a genre founded supposedly on its desire to evolve. Some of them have evolved. Often it kind of
Mm.
cross-pollinates with other genres. So you get prog jazz and prog folk and prog pop and stuff like that. Prog metal is a big one.
Ooh,
More
fun.
recent stuff. More recent bands might be Big Big Train or a really
Mm.
wholesome band that I absolutely love. Maybe less wholesome would be a band like Porcupine Tree, who were pretty dark. They're quite miserable. A lot of prog rock is
Porcupine
miserable.
tree.
Porcupine Tree, they're
Times.
fantastic. Um, but yeah, so but I guess it would also kind of encompass certain artists, like, for example, another favorite of mine, like Kate Bush,
Mm.
who kind of spans
Oh.
a few pop, new wave kind of, but also prog. Basically, prog fans tend to love Kate Bush as well because she is a bit weird, does
Mm.
unusual things, and
Hmm.
yeah, so it's a
Really?
nice vague genre. Nobody really knows how to define it. In fact, I have a subscription to Prog magazine, and
Oh, Ben.
a
That's
recurring refrain in that magazine is that nobody really knows what prog is, but you kind of know it when you hear it. They're like, yeah, that's prog. Don't know why, but it
That
is.
wow.
makes a lot of sense, actually.
It does.
Mm,
Yeah.
It's also so funny to me because the first time I heard of Kate Bush was from someone making fun of you for liking Kate Bush.
yeah, yeah. Which
That was,
I think there's a lot to unpack there about why is it funny that I'm a fan of Kate, but
yeah.
I like a lot of people who are weird, but
I mean,
you know.
excuse me. I was listening to this album and I was like, yep, this is the Ben album, 100%. I'm like, ah,
Yes,
yes, I
the album we're
see.
going to be discussing. Yeah,
Yes.
Yes.
this is probably quite on brand for me. Yeah, yeah.
Yes. Yes, it is. For me, I think, I mean, I love theater music. So
Yeah.
most, I
Mm.
guess, modern theater music. Because once you get sort of through the 2010s, and then I'm like, yeah. So, or maybe even the 2000s, the Wickeds, the Hamiltons, the Shrek the musicals. So good. Um, but also a lot of folk. I don't know. What I love is when you've got a folk album or something, and then they go rogue and do some really like good electric guitar or something. Or
Oh.
it's the very fast folk I think I really enjoy. But then
Fast folk.
fast folk, yes. And then I also love just so, like I guess rock, but not hard rock, but or screamo. I used to like screamo. I had a whole thing through high school where I was
Mm.
like heavy metal. And it was the deep rage in me, I think, that was pulling it out.
Yeah.
Um, but I love just electric guitar drums that are going real hard. And most of the time I like songs that tell a story, which is why some of the songs on this album I was like, oh wow, okay, hold on, I need to
Mm.
re-listen to that because it was there were stories being told. Because a lot of pop
Mm.
music is just kind of I listen to it and I'm like, I've
Yeah.
sorry, this is not no offense to Brianna.
Oh no, I to interject slightly with that with the
Yeah.
pop thing, I've watched a couple of more recently a couple of documentaries about
Hmm.
pop music and literally like the late 90s, early 2000s and this still happens
Hmm.
but like boy bands specifically, but also some of the other songs. If you look at the dialogue or well dialogue, but like the words for it, they're
Yeah.
nonsense,
Yeah.
but they roll a certain way and that they stick in your
Yep.
brain, which is why
Yep.
they work so much. And
Mm.
it's not like it still makes them like do what their job, which is to make people like listen to them and
Yeah.
everything, but they are lyrically not like
They're
deep.
nonsense. Yeah.
Yes, they're nonsense. And sometimes I love nonsense.
Oh,
Actually, although a lot of
absolutely.
the
Mm.
time I love nonsense.
Oh.
Hence the fact I listen to stuff that's not in English a lot of the time. I don't know
Yeah.
what they're saying, but like you get the emotion behind it sometimes, but or you just are like, wow, that certain part, like I'll it just keeps playing through your head kind of a
Yep.
thing. So
Mm.
you're right.
Yeah.
Like
I
I'm
mean,
not arguing anyway.
I also sometimes listen to nonsense. There's a D&D podcast that came out for a period of time that was a musical D&D podcast. And
Oh
just so
yes.
good.
Goodness. So
So,
good.
so good. Bombarded, rest in peace. Um, but there's
They're
a few
not dead,
songs.
guys.
They're not dead. No. Well, I mean the podcast is dead, you know what I mean? They're not doing
Yeah.
anything else with it. But there's a few songs on there that like are intentionally nonsense.
Yeah.
And I just find it really great. There's also a song that whenever people are like, what's the weirdest song that you know? I'm like, I mean, I could go real weird, but usually I play Horsey Horsey from
Horsey
Bombarded
horsey.
because it's just dumb and it's fantastic. Anyway, Ben, can you share with us a little bit about who you are? What is your relationship with music? And then tell us a little bit about the album that we're going to be talking about today.
Right. Oh, a little bit about who I am. I mean, that's a very wide question.
Indeed.
Um, I'm Ben. I don't know where to start. I'm a Londoner, but I live in Birmingham, unfortunately.
Sorry for your
Um,
loss.
I came here for uni and in 2012 and never quite escaped. It's been a long time now.
Ugh.
Um, I'm a librarian now. I'm a university librarian, which is great. Really enjoy that. I do a lot of poetry. It's probably another interesting thing about me. I hope that's interesting. Maybe it isn't. But yeah, I like poetry. I write a lot of poetry. I share it every now and then.
Mm.
Um, and do you know what? I should probably mention the fact that I actually got engaged at the end of last
Woo!
year. I'm
Congrats.
getting married in just under 3 months to Emma,
Yay,
um,
Emma. We should
which
have
is
had
very
that Emma on
exciting.
for our
Yeah.
Emma
Oh,
episode.
hey, look, we can watch
Um,
Clueless, Caitlin, and then do it.
There we go. Okay. Ugh.
but anyway, yeah. So that's a bit about what's going on. I met Caitlin when she came to Birmingham the first time, and she doing well, it wasn't a gap year thing. It was like a summer thing, wasn't
Hmm.
it?
Yeah, summer internship.
Um, Summer internship kind of attached to the church that I go to. And she's come back a couple of times. I've never had the pleasure of meeting Brianna in person. Um, and apparently,
Oh yeah.
apparently I'm Brianna's nemesis, but I
Yes.
can't remember why.
Which
Brianna,
makes it
I
even
can't remember what
funnier.
I did.
that's true. Would you like
Um,
to
um,
remind Ben of why
uh,
he's your nemesis?
so I don't remember how we. This was when I think this originally I had decided when we were living together back in like 2020 or 2021, Caitlin,
Hmm.
I want to say.
I think s- I think so.
Yeah. So, uh, what it was, some of you may know, we've done this author's work before on this podcast and stuff. And
Oh, yes.
There it is.
yeah,
Okay.
There it is.
one of my favorite books, actually a couple of my favorite books are by Diana Wynne Jones. And well, me being I completely logically I'm like, I get why somebody may not like this. When I originally heard that Ben didn't like, I don't even remember what it was and stuff, of Diana stuff, or if it was just the writing, I can't remember, Ben, I'm sorry. But I was like, Ben's my nemesis now. Like,
Okay.
yeah.
I can remember so I saw the film of Howl's Moving Castle
Mm.
long before I read the book.
Oh, it's
And
Ryan
I loved
Jones.
the film, and I think what made me your nemesis is that I basically found the book incredibly underwhelming compared with the film. I thought it was pretty dull.
Oh, okay, fair.
So
Look,
that might have been it.
I understand, but completely disagree. So
and
this is
that's
Okay.
how
this is why we're
that's how the
nemesis.
nemesis
Yeah, that's how it
Yeah.
happened.
became.
So
Like
there we go.
again,
I'm glad we
logically, we clarified
cleared
that. Now
that
you
up.
know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Um,
love it every time me and Kaylin talk about you. I'm like my nemesis
like,
basically
oh,
every
yeah,
time.
man, your nemesis.
Yeah.
Is that one of those family feuds that goes back generations that nobody knows where it started? It's just like
Yeah.
we hate them.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there we go. So that's
Uh,
who I am,
We got that
Brianna's
out of the way.
nemesis.
mhm.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, it's
Now
very important.
the second question was relationship to music, which is
Yeah.
a tricky one. Or well, no, it's a big one. So I my relationship to music, as many people who know me will not be surprised to hear, is that I love it.
Mhm.
I'm basically obsessed with it. Which might be odd given that I have no musical talent of my own. I can get a few chords out of a ukulele, um, but I just something happened when I was a teenager and music just clicked for
Mm.
me. And since then, uh, that I kind of have two in terms of the creativity I consume, kind of not creating but consume. My two biggest passions are reading and
Mm.
music. And so I have spent probably um, several thousands of pounds over the years on buying music, but also attending live music, exploring, following links between different artists and things. And
Mm.
it just I'm someone who will constantly have music on. Um, I if I can have music on, I will have music on. If I can
Mm.
be listening
Yeah.
to music. Um, I actually just earlier today, finished a little listening project. You can cut all this out of the podcast later. Um, but I a few weeks back decided that I would make a list of everything that Peter Gabriel had ever done in his music career and put it in order. It was quite difficult with some of the obscure B-sides and things, and work my way through it from beginning to end. And I just finished the last album
Oh, that's
a
awesome.
couple of hours ago, um,
And
because
that
I
is how
just
you
love it.
know
Yeah,
that Ben
uh,
is neurodivergent.
yes, yeah. Um, Diagnosed with ADHD. There's probably a lot more going on, but I just love it, and it means that I deep dive into everything. So
Yeah.
I deep dive into, and maybe this is why I love prog rock. There's so much to unpack. They love doing concept albums,
Hmm.
prog artists. So you dive into the stories, the lyrics, and then I'm a bit, maybe it's a bit creepy, but I like, reading the biographies of the artists and kind of
Hmm.
seeing, oh, when they wrote this music, this was going on, and that's what this means.
Yep.
And so music means a lot to me, which is why people then laugh, because I will always have a song or something that kind of is related to how I'm feeling or what I'm doing. And
Yeah.
I have favorite artists. Peter Gabriel and Kate Bush are up there as the two,
Yeah.
the top artists that I just love, absolutely love their work. I've never met either of them, I should clarify.
Yeah.
But yeah, so relationship to music is massive.
Yeah.
Which maybe leads into this album.
Yeah.
Um how much detail do you want on this album?
Here's what we're going to do. We're gonna give some, I guess, what we call stats. So whether we do book stats, game stats, we're gonna do album
Okay.
stats. So things, like what's the title, when was it released,
Hmm.
who made it, maybe even a little bit of like who's guest starred on it, because there were definitely some people singing that were not Peter
Yes, yeah, there
Gabriel.
were lots of guest stars on
And
it. Yeah.
on Spotify, they don't have the
They don't
names of the
credit anybody
people. Yeah, they
else.
don't credit
Yeah,
anybody else. But on Genius Lyrics, they did.
which is
So,
nice.
Okay.
yeah. I don't know any of the people.
So I
But
know of some of them, um, as in I can name them and I can say who they are, but I don't. I'm not an expert on any of
sure.
them. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Uh,
So we'll
that
do that. We'll get into some thoughts on if you pick like two or three songs that really were impactful for you as a young lad when you were listening to this. Um, and then Brandon and I are
Mhm.
going to talk a little bit about, a few songs that I took just a few notes, very, very minimal notes, when I was listening to this. But there was one song in particular that got me. And so we're going to kind of talk about one or two songs, for us that hit something. And if they're the same songs, we might just interject
Mm.
while you talk. But yeah, so tell us a
Okay.
little bit
Yeah.
about what the album is, who, I mean, we already talked about Peter Gabriel a bit, but like,
Mm.
give
More in
us what we would
depth.
call, I guess, album stats.
Okay. So the album is called OVO, OVO, which is both meant to be similar to the word for egg, but also if you write it out, it looks a bit like a bird's face.
Oh,
The O's being the eyes and the V
yeah.
being a beak.
Yeah.
It's also called the Millennium Show. So this was a soundtrack written for a dance piece in the Millennium Dome, which was in London for the year 2000. There's a lot to unpack there, especially for non-UK listeners. As a celebration of the millennium, they built this massive, massive dome in London.
Oh.
It's still there. It's the O2 Arena now. Um, and they just filled it with stuff, and it was awful. And everybody just agreed that it was really naff. But the only good bit was there was this dance show in the middle, and this was the soundtrack to it.
Mm.
Um,
Wow.
so yeah, so it is conceived as a soundtrack, it's kind of to dance music, but they are songs, and it's meant to sort of it sort of starts quite folky. It's meant to sound old kind of English and moves into more world music and then modern kind of rock and stuff. So yeah, so it was performed
Wow.
999 times in the Millennium
What?
Dome. Uh, yeah, they did 999 performances of it. Guess how many of those were filmed for, future generations?
None, I'm
None?
assuming.
None. There is no official video
That's funny because I
evidence
was trying
of,
to go find one.
yeah,
Just,
yeah, doesn't
As soon as you
exist.
asked, I was like, it's the same thing
Yeah,
with musical theater. I know they have been recording more of them, but they're like, oh, it will take away from the thing if it's recorded. And I'm like, how's anybody supposed to know what?
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I don't care.
yeah,
Like
wow.
film the
same.
thing. Yeah. Um, this is it's quite a late album in Peter Gabriel's career, so it's generally seen as his it's not kind of in the main sequence of his albums, but it kind of is. It's his 11th album. Um
Wow.
his music's getting a bit darker. So yes, it was released in 2000, to kind of coincide with um this show.
Mm.
Um it's he wrote it, and he does sing on some of it, but he handed over kind of singing duties to various other people. He wanted it to be a team effort. um I don't know I don't know all the people who are on there. There's a singer on some of them called Alison Goldfrapp. some people might remember. So Goldfrapp was a duo. They might still exist. They were really popular a while back. Um, she was the singer. Guy called Paul Buchanan, who's Scottish. He was in a band called the Blue Nile. Um, Very famous Nina Cherry, who unfortunately is used on the worst track of the album. There is an opening rap which explains the story of the album, and it's really embarrassing. We were discussing earlier that Peter Gabriel's tried his hand at a few different genres. This was his only attempt at writing a rap, and she's wasted on it. It's pretty tragic. And then I guess other big singer is there's Elizabeth Fraser, and what's his name? Cut this silence in a second. So guy called Richie Havens, who was American. He's got a really distinctive, quite gravelly voice. Really, really great singer. Kind of folky, but also quite soulful. And was sort of a hero of Peter Gabriel's as well, and he got him to sing on it. And there's loads of people. There's also then Peter Gabriel's kind of usual band, and so it's quite a big cast of people basically on it, which is great because they're playing characters. Again, I'll let you do some editing later if you want to cut out some of this, but there is essentially a story being told about a family who live in a village, and they're all kind of in touch with nature, but then the daughter Sophia falls in love with a sky boy. This group of people who can fly, and Sky Boy, for some reason he's just called Sky Boy, which is a bit weird because it's like me just being called human. But she falls in love with him, and the family are like, well, we're not sure about that. There's some disasters. The father of the family dies. The son goes a bit rogue and instigates the Industrial Revolution. And there's a bit of a parable about living in harmony with nature. He builds a tower, an enormous tower out of iron, and enslaves the sky people. And kind of, there's a little bit of slavery and genocide in the middle. This is meant to be a kid's story. It's really weird. So he starts kind of genociding the sky people. And then his sister Sophia is like, well, we're not having that. So she leads an attack on the tower. The tower is kind of overrun. The son, Ion, throws himself from the top of the tower and dies. And the tower collapses, and the mum is killed as well. Sophia, the daughter, and the sky boy can be together, but then there is a flood. There's a terrible flood. She plants an acorn. It's kind of weird. It grows into a big tree. She also gets pregnant with Skyboy's child. It's really funny how it describes it in the official description. It's like she meets Skyboy, he flies her up above the clouds, and she becomes pregnant. And it's like, how did that happen? Yeah. And then they climb. This big tree grows, and they climb up to the top of the tree. And she gives birth to OVO, and they put him in a nest, and he flies off into the sky, and that's the end. And the different characters are played by different people, basically, different singers. So that's the album. Was there anything else you wanted to?
Okay. Really quickly. So I was reading the description earlier, and the thing that got me, because I didn't realize this at first, is the reason why they call him OVO is because his eyebrows or something look like the words, I think is what I was reading.
Yeah, there's some weird reason that he's got some big eyebrows.
I like, it's so funny how it's it's a little silly but also pretty deep at the same time. Like
yeah.
It is.
It's kind of typical of Peter Gabriel's storytelling. in that you can tell the story kind of got out of hand. Um, he has a long history of like starting an idea and then it just gets out of control,
Hmm.
and becomes incredibly hard to follow. Um, yeah, yeah.
That's so
Yeah, it was
interesting.
his eyes and brows formed the word OVO and so gave his name.
He just has a V in the middle of his forehead.
Yeah.
Or
Oh,
like
and the
I
V.
was
Yeah. Hey, look, here's what I find interesting is I listened to the album twice, and I can't
Mhm.
say that I this is the problem with having a piece of media that is multimedia. So if this is
yeah.
meant to
Mm,
be a performance, then
mm.
actually just listening to it for me as some rando who was just listening to it, um,
It is hard to pick out that story
yeah.
in it.
And I
It
was
took me
like,
years to learn there was that story behind it.
and actually I'm just now looking on Genius lyrics and there's a picture of a little I, I don't know, yellow thing with
Oh yeah,
the
little kind
eyes
of
and the
little
V.
guy, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
with a little
there's
guy.
lots of like related artwork. There's a little orangey yellow guy.
Caitlin, is this the origin of Little Chicken Boy?
What?
I don't
Brianna,
know if Ben
you
hasn't heard.
absolute genius.
Who's little chicken boy?
Oh
Oh,
no.
you
Is this the
haven't.
episode we introduce little chicken boy? No, I can't
Is
do
this a
that today.
D&D thing?
Yes and
It's
no.
it did not begin
Ben,
as a D&D thing
Ben, when's your birthday? You don't have to
May.
say the whole
May, I'm
thing.
In
In
May.
afraid.
May? Dang.
Yeah.
Caitlin, you have to do a belated birthday note for Ben.
Let me
About chicken boy.
let me
No,
okay.
it's
We're going to take a pause here in this podcast about nostalgic things. This specific episode about Ben's a nostalgic album from Ben's past. And we're going to sit down and explain Little Chicken Boy to Ben and to
oh.
the
Okay.
listeners. Um, I was playing a game. It's called The Sheriff of Nottingham with some friends when I was visiting in
Okay.
Arizona. And this game, you have a card that you're trying to smuggle goods into a village, like past the sheriff and not get caught,
Okay.
is what your job is. So you have, I think, 6 to 8 character cards. Can't remember exactly what it was. And each of those characters has a particular good that they're sort of known for. So as they were passing out the cards, I happened to get a card that had this sort of young looking kid dude with a bunch of chickens around him. And it was we were playing the game, you go through the rounds, you're trying to smuggle things in and whatever. I don't remember all the rules. And my friend's brother-in-law was doing a voice for his character. And I was like, "Oh, that's really
Okay.
funny. I'll have to do a voice for my character because I'm extra that way." So I did a voice and they're just hilarious, hilarious. Everybody giggled, laughed. It was the greatest thing. The 2 girls that were next to me were literally falling off their chairs laughing at the voice I was doing, and it was brilliant. I was like, "This is fantastic." Now I don't remember if I messaged you, Brianna, or if I just told you about it when I got home.
Mm.
I don't
I
remember.
I don't remember now either, but
But
I think you maybe have messaged me or something.
I don't know. It doesn't matter because what happened
Yeah.
was I did the voice for Brianna and she lost her
Did
dang
not.
mind.
Yeah, I was
There
like,
was
Okay.
tears in her
very few
eyes.
things make me laugh that hard, and for some
Yes.
reason, Little Chicken Boy gets me every time.
Yep. And I don't know what it is. And then this is October-ish 2023. And then in Brianna's birthday, the next February, I we did a D&D game. I was DMing for all of Brianna's friends, and my gift to Brianna was to make Little Chicken Boy a part of the game.
Yep.
And what I didn't
Okay.
anticipate is a bunch of Brianna's friends all
Yep.
being varying degrees of neurodivergent and for some reason love a little guy who's
Oh
got a
yeah.
crazy voice.
hmm
They loved Little Chicken Boy.
Oh
And
yeah.
they were trying to like I had him as, one of those door puzzles where you've got the face in the door that's talking to you.
Okay.
And it was Little Chicken Boy. And they're like, "We want to take the door with us and we want Little Chicken Boy to come with us." And I was like, "I will not be doing this voice for the next 2 hours. It's not gonna happen." and then I killed Little Chicken Boy, but he came back at the
Oh,
end as
Yeah.
a corporeal being. Anyway, so then last summer, I think it was,
Mhm.
I can't remember if I was in England, if I just returned from England. We got a message from somebody that was like, we want a birthday message from Little Chicken Boy. And I was like, I could do that. So over the last year, I have sent like 2 or 3, maybe 4, birthday grams as Little Chicken
as
Boy
little
Yeah.
chicken boy.
to
Yeah.
Brianna's friend group, to people in Brianna's friend group.
Wow.
So
Yes.
It's like
It's great.
when celebrities do that service where you can pay them for a video,
yes,
isn't it?
Yeah.
yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So it was Little Chicken Boy, and it was
Wow.
Little
specifically
Chicken
Brianna's
Boy
Little
friend
is a
chicken
group.
celebrity.
boy.
Yes.
I felt like awkward because again, I live in a garage. Fun facts for the listeners. And I have roommates, and also, garages are not quite sound insulated, and so you can hear things through the door. And 1 or 2 times I was doing the Little Chicken Boy voice tone. I was like, man, if anybody's outside listening, I feel sorry for myself. I mean, I
The
also,
thing,
yeah, go
yeah.
ahead, Brandon.
The thing I love about Little Chicken Boy, it makes me laugh. But my one friend Warden, he sometimes refuses to like he's just like, this is dumb. But then he's like thinks it's funny. And it's like 100% Little Chicken Boy is that same thing where he's like
Yeah.
kind of grumpy. He's like, I don't need it. And then we've played the Little Chicken Boy clip and he was starting to laugh and like, but like trying not to. And so it just makes me like happy and it's
It's
really funny
phenomenal.
and stuff.
Yes.
Yeah.
Maybe one day Little Chicken Boy will make an appearance. Today is not that day. Okay.
There's not that day.
I'm gonna move on past
We're
Little
gonna move
Chicken
on.
Boy.
Excellent.
It's just okay. Actually, the last thing I have to say is the Emma episode where we were talking about the movies. I believe it was the
Right.
movies. I mentioned, have you read Emma, Ben?
I haven't, but it's so Emma likes Emma. My Emma
Yeah.
likes Emma,
That's cute.
so I need
Okay.
to read Emma at some
Yeah.
point.
I'm still trying to work on that. But Mr. Woodhouse, which is Emma's dad, in at least in the movies. I haven't finished reading the book, so I can't say exactly in the book, but is just sort of a grumpy old man who likes his comfort. And Brianna and I, in an episode of Emma, were talking about how instead of in me, there are not 2 wolves in me. There are 2
Okay.
wolves in you, whichever one you feed is the one that wins.
Yes.
For me, it's Brianna was like, you have a Little Chicken Boy and a Mr. Woodhouse, whichever one you. And I was like, okay,
It's true though.
Wow. Okay.
yeah,
Or
There's a
now
lot
the
to
banana girl,
unpack
Caitlin.
there.
banana.
Yeah, there's a
girl.
lot. I love to assign weird things to Caitlin. Like I called her a skunk recently, but it wasn't that she was actually a
Oh.
skunk. It was we were in a bookstore and we were walking and there was this like sort of kids book that had this skunk and this badger on the cover and the skunk was so eager looking. I was like, Caitlin, it's you. And she's like, I'm a skunk, and she was not happy with me, of course.
because she's eager.
Yes, it was the skunk that was grinning with its hand out, had a suitcase in its hand, its other
Oh.
paw, and it was just grinning at Badger. And I was like, well, now I have to read this book to see it. And then I was reading it, and I was like,
Okay.
dang, I kind of am like, I'm both like Badger and skunk. That's a whole different story. Anyway, moving on.
Okay.
Moving on.
This is par for the
Moving on.
course for the
This is
podcast.
such a long, just rabbit
It's
hole.
all in the edit. It's all in
It's-
the edit.
Yeah, I'm leaving this in, man. Are you kidding me? This is great. Because I'm gonna listen back to this in a couple weeks and be like, that was actually really funny. Here's what I want to do now. You've actually given us really helpfully a summary of the story of the album,
Okay.
which was great because I was like, the story of OVO, as in
The track.
the track. Yes.
Yeah.
That as you were explaining that, I was looking and I was like, oh yeah, okay, this is the story being told. And I'm assuming because it went from a stage medium to an album and solely an album, that they probably added the story of OVO in.
Yeah, I think
afterwards.
that was an extra track put in. Yeah.
That makes
Yeah,
sense because it's trying to explain the story of OVO, which
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
I get
Which
it.
fragments of it come through in the songs,
Yeah.
but
Mhm.
not all of it.
Yeah.
You can't. There's no way to distill the songs down and get that story.
No, there's truly not at
Yeah.
No.
all. No. Um, so that was really helpful because now knowing that, which maybe I should have gone to the Wikipedia to read that, but I didn't necessarily know I needed to do that. It helps put some things into like the tower that ate people being,
Yeah.
that I'm like, oh my gosh, okay, that makes so much sense now. And even the track that has no lyrics, but it's Revenge, knowing
Yes.
you know
Yeah.
what I mean? These things are all making sense. And I'm like, wow, okay. This is so much more helpful now that I know the actual story.
Yeah.
So what for you are a few of the songs that stuck out to you in this album?
Gotcha. So I'll try to do it this very quickly. Because there's some songs that I've since the album came out, I've heard Pete Gabriel do live.
Oh, that's cool.
But do you know, for me, it's so the first proper track of the album. You skip the story of OVO. First proper track is this track called Low Light,
Mhm.
which opens with this almost kind of ambient sound. It just sort of drifts for a while. It feels a bit dark and strange, and there's like a little bit of piano, quite
Mhm.
eerie piano, and then these strings come in. And I remember as a teenager listening to this late at night. I'd have my headphones in and I had my iPod and listening to
Mhm.
this late at night and being very close to tears
Mm.
when the strings came in and just this beautiful sound. And then a man starts singing. And I only recently found out what language he's singing in. He's singing in Irish.
Oh, that
Um,
is cool.
Oh.
yeah. And I did some research on what the translation is, but it's essentially both the string music and the lyrics are pointing ahead to the song Downside Up. It's like a preview. And the translation is either, there's a very literal translation, which I don't think is quite right, which is, I lifted up the earth, I fall down into the sky.
Mm.
But I saw somebody online had asked this question, and somebody who spoke Irish had
Mhm.
chimed in and said it is essentially what he's singing over and over again is raise me up from the ground
Mm.
until I fall into the sky.
Oh, cool.
Um, and then later in Downside Up, you have this downside up, upside down, take my weight off the ground, falling deep in the sky.
Okay.
So it's like this little hint of what's coming, and I just love how atmospheric it is. It's very gentle start, but then I do
That's
think
awesome.
that Downside Up is another massive highlight of this.
Mm.
I saw him. I heard Pete Gabriel perform this with an orchestra.
Oh,
Downside Up. It was
that's
phenomenal. It was
awesome.
really really good. Such a fun song. I think just the refrain in that Downside Up, upside down, take my weight off the ground, falling deep in the sky, slipping
Mm.
into the unknown. It's a beautiful love song, um, which then flows into the nest that sailed the sky,
Hmm.
which is just lovely. Again, he played that with the orchestra, almost as like a lullaby. He introduced it by saying, "Here's something to send you home to sleep," and they played it. Um, but I love that in contrast with that, you have the tower that ate people,
Yeah.
which is this heavier kind of scary song about this, this guy Ion building this tower and enslaving people and kind of this forced labor, and it's quite terrifying. And I in 2014, saw Peter Gabriel do this. He played this on tour, not with an orchestra, but he turned it into this like quite grimy, heavy metal-esque kind of quite overwhelming piece of music, and it
Wow.
really like it's phenomenal. I love just how dark it gets.
Hmm.
It's kind of this almost the climax of the kind of the crisis in the story. I think is it's phenomenal. The style of that the way he sings on it as well, the way he changes his voice to match
Mm.
this character. I remember Stat really being a standout for me. just because it captures this character, I think more than maybe the other songs do. The
Mm.
other songs are sung well, but not necessarily in character.
Okay.
And so I love it as a theatrical piece almost. And then just very quickly, I think the last song, Make
Hmm.
Tomorrow, which in a way is almost a slightly cheesy, like, hey, we've got to make a good world for our
Hmm.
kids, you know. Um, but I remember obsessing over that song
Hmm.
as a teenager, just like until I just knew it backwards. I knew every little sound in it. I knew every kind of transition from one kind of section to another, just off by heart. Um, and there is something quite profound in it as well. Kind of, I think that's where he really lets out a lot of his own feelings about
Yeah.
kind of the way the world is changing. With Richie Haven singing the lines, what better measure of what
Hmm.
you were doing here than what you leave behind? All the
Yeah.
children of your children's children. Do you ever think what they're going to find?
Hmm.
Make tomorrow today. And that's the refrain, is make
Yeah.
tomorrow today. And I think
Mm.
it's phenomenal. And so it does lose something for not having the visuals, but I
Hmm.
think there's so much depth that can be unpacked in it, even for just what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, those would be I guess, the big standouts for me. Low light, tower that ate people, downside up, make tomorrow. I think that if I was to distill it, if I had to distill it down, those are the four I would keep.
Yeah.
Mm.
I mean, I love that because Make Tomorrow I actually made a note of that one because that line, what better measure of what you were doing here than what you leave behind. I was like, oh my gosh.
Mm,
I went back and listened to it again because I was like, wow. Yeah, that's a really good point of how do you know, I mean, how do we know what people were doing in the past? And it's because the people that, were before us left an impact, whether it's um the work they did. So the technology that we have,
mm,
all these innovations are evidence of smart people in the past that left their impact on the world. But then you also have the more personal things. You've got family heirlooms, you've
mm,
got stories told by your grandparents or great grandparents that are then passed down through the generations. And the I thought that was really good. But also, there's another line later that says, sitting up in a spaceship looking down at the earth, you wonder what they're all struggling for, what it's really worth. And I was like, man,
mm.
what a fantastic way of almost, it's not breaking the fourth wall. I don't know what it would be, but like coming out of the world in a spaceship to then look at
Mm.
like
And this,
humanity.
yeah, I've learned recently, this is I think a reference to something called the overview effect, which is a thing that astronauts experience. Where
Mm.
apparently astronauts, they go up into space and they look down at Earth, and psychologically that does something to people,
Mm.
where they look at it and they go, why, like, it's simultaneously everything is meaningless, but also everything is so meaningful.
Mm.
Like, why are we wasting our time on war and hatred? It's like a thing
Mm.
that happens.
Okay,
Is basically
yeah.
they look down and they suddenly get this weird moment of, what's the point of all of this madness? Like,
Wow.
we're this little speck. So I think it's a reference to that, of
That is cool.
having that perspective. Yeah.
Wow.
Hmm.
See, this is why I go on to Genius Lyrics usually when I have songs that I like, and I'm like, what is the meaning of this song?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, Cool. Brianna, were there any songs that really stuck out to you?
I think the only one that really stuck out to me was what was it called? The Time of the Turning.
The time turn.
Mm,
Yeah, it's because it's I think part of it was because it has its own song, but then it also a little bit later is like mixed with another.
Hmm.
I have to go
mm.
back and look. Um, it's trying to make sure this doesn't play all of a
Because
sudden.
there's the time of
So
the
yeah,
turning,
there's
and then the reprise slash
the
Reaper's
Weaver's
reel.
reel.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. And honestly, one of my favorite things, actually, going back to the genre stuff that I like, is video game soundtracks, and that
Hmm.
is also could be any genre.
Mm,
And I love one of the things that I love in video game soundtracks is like the either like the main theme or some other common theme throughout the different
mm,
soundtracks because then it ties stuff together. And then also one of the things you were talking about, Ben, that I really also love sometimes when people do stuff is when you were talking about how Peter Gabriel, I don't remember which song it was, but like he, I think it was the Tower one. Was
Mhm.
that the Tower of the Eight People?
Yeah,
How
Tyler, yeah.
or Revenge? I was either one of those where you're like he in one of his performances he like kind of changed it up and even made it more like gritty. Is that what it
Yeah,
was?
yeah.
Yeah. Something I love is when people like kind of experiment with tone a lot of the
Mhm.
time. And so the nice thing
Mm,
is sometimes when you take a piece and it like is it like gets used again later or like throughout
mm,
the score, it's like emphasizes an emotion or something like that. And so that's something I really liked about that. And I really liked just kind of the vibe of the Time of Turning. I don't have like a lot of deep insight into it, honestly, because
Mhm.
I've only listened to it a couple of times. But
mm,
I just kind of liked this. It almost feels like it is talking about kind of like a transition, a time like time of
mm,
turning, time of changing,
Mhm.
and I know I'm kind of at one of those points in my life, so that might be why it stuck out to me so much, and just kind of
mm.
like
Yeah.
the way the music felt while I was listening to it really emphasized that also and stuff.
Yeah.
So
But yeah, I
yeah,
love that because I think that's, to me, that's just as valid an interpretation of the song as whatever the story behind it
Mhm.
yeah,
is that it made me feel a certain way at a certain time. And for like again, I just think there's so many songs that I to this day I don't even know if they're good songs. I just know that they made me feel a certain way at a certain time.
Mhm.
absolutely. That's
Yeah.
actually something that I try largely when like especially because I've been reading a lot more lately.
Mm,
I try a lot of the time like to give authors a benefit of the doubt because I read a lot of indie stuff. So it's like
mm,
self-publish, those kinds of things. And there's certain allowances I'll give people like sometimes with writing, sometimes with other things. And then there's
mm,
like certain points where people I'm like this is too much. But I like it's sometimes it's the whole like concept of like some person's trash is another person's treasure
Mhm.
kind of a thing like
mm,
and why like certain movies that one actually gets referenced a lot in things when I like talk about the stuff is like that movie wasn't a good movie but it was a
Mhm.
good movie because it made me feel something whether it was a
Yeah.
character a
mm,
moment or something like that and I'm like I feel like the media whatever it is the book the movie the music like as long as it makes you feel something, it's done its job.
Mhm.
mm,
Even
mm.
if it is bad, because sometimes feeling a certain way about something, it's made you feel that way
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
stuff. So, and yeah, sorry, that's always something that I really like. I honestly, what you've been saying about music, Ben, is like 100% how I feel about music.
Mhm.
We have
Nice.
different tastes,
Yeah.
like obviously,
Yeah.
but
That's okay. Yeah.
yeah,
I'll
it's
allow it.
okay to have differences. Thank you. I appreciate your like allowance, I guess.
Yeah.
But no, like I I'm not a musician at all, but
Mhm.
I
Mm,
love and appreciate music because of how it emphasizes story a lot of time or
Mhm.
mm,
feelings and that's something that I do like while this album necessarily isn't something that I like would listen to over and over again and part of it is probably because I didn't get at a certain point in my life or it's
mm,
just not quite right now what I'm like liking. I've had other things very similarly affect me this way.
yeah.
And I appreciate what it's done for you because I understand that like
Yeah.
I can like empathize with that because I've had those similar feelings and
Mm,
everything. So
Yeah.
yeah,
I think
that one was the one that really stuck out to me.
yeah, I think that's the thing about music that I there are few people, most people have songs they like, albums,
mm,
artists that they'll return to, whether it's
Yeah.
nostalgic genres that they
mm,
might favor. There have been a few people that I've met that like music doesn't impact them in a big way. But for me, it's always been something I didn't understand because I'm like, man, if I find a song that like hits deep, that becomes a part of my personality and that becomes a
yeah.
part of
Yeah.
I have a playlist on Spotify that I actually need to change and update,
Mm,
I think, regularly because it's songs that if you listen to that, you get a sense of who I am. And
Yeah.
sometimes,
mm,
it might be confusing because they're you need context for some of them. And also sometimes those things change because they're the songs that I would say defined me when I was in middle school
Yeah.
definitely do not
Hopefully
define.
don't.
I mean, some of them do. I've listened to a few like Super Chick albums recently, y'all, and let me tell you, those things still slap. But it's a thing that I love about the fact that this was because we read most of the time on this podcast. Most of the stuff that we talk about is books, although we've got a whole long list of other things, video games, movies, shows, other media that we'll get through. But the fact that it was a musical album, I was like, oh yeah, it's actually like, for me, same thing. I'm almost always listening to something, whether it's an audiobook these days because I've gotten really into audiobooks, or music. And I'm always trying, I go through seasons of I listen to the same playlist or album or artist over and over and over and over again until I'm absolutely sick of them. Or like yesterday I was cleaning and I listened to an album that came out recently of an artist I really like, and then it just started playing, recommended songs. And I was like, you know what?
Oh, right, yeah.
All right, let's go. I'll just do it. And if I don't like the song, I'm going to skip and be like, no, I don't like this. And I found a couple of songs that were really great. I mean, granted, in the 2.5 hours I was cleaning, I maybe found 3 or 4 songs that I enjoyed, but I was listening to it and I was like, okay, whatever. So I appreciate that this is an album, and that, I mean, also we're deep thinkers here, obviously. And so we think deeply about all the things. So for me, the big one was Father Son.
That one almost needs to come with a trigger warning, I think. For deep feels.
It does. I listened to this more than the other ones because I needed, and I forgot I could look up the lyrics. I don't know. I was going. I think actually Spotify even has the lyrics, but I was also listening to this while I was doing something else, and so I didn't think about it. But it's just crazy to me that like I started listening to this and I'm like, oh, it's a song, Father, Son, and I started listening to the lyrics and I'm like, oh, okay, that's a gut punch a little bit.
Yeah.
And
well, there's a really to add context, there's a really beautiful story behind the song, which is that it wasn't really meant to be a part of this album. And he wrote it because he realized that his dad was getting a bit older, and he hadn't spent much time with his dad, but his dad did yoga. So Peter Gabriel was like, right, for some reason he latched onto that and he was like, I'm going to book a weekend away, me, my dad, and a yoga instructor. And we're going to do this kind of yoga that involves 2 people. So it's lots of physical contact, kind of this 2 people yoga. And so if you listen to the lyrics, it basically has nothing to do with the story of OVO.
None at all.
And it's him doing yoga with his dad, connecting with her. And he said that he did this weekend of yoga, and on the last day, something happened and they both burst into tears. And the way he describes it is, he says, and I turned round and I hugged my dad for the first time in years. And so it's basically just him singing about how much he loves his dad. And it's so like, oh,
that makes so much sense.
Yeah.
Because even verse 4 is the yogi's eyes are open, looking up above. He too is dreaming of his daddy's love.
Yeah. Which, if you think about it, you're like, why is there suddenly a yogi in the story of OVO?
That was my question.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. It's just this experience that he had, but he puts it in, I think, because of the theme of the relationship between father and son, and in it, Theo is the character, the father, who's known as the man who loves the earth. His son Ian wants to impress his dad, but is all about industrialization. And so this beautiful song about father-son relationship comes in between the death of the father and the creation of the tower. And I think just thematically, I think creates an incredible bridge between them. Which is, So sorry, I massively just interrupted you there.
That is phenomenal. And also, again, it almost makes it, not almost, it absolutely makes it more.
Sorry.
Wow, Brianna.
My phone decided to do its own thing.
Your phone. It
Yes.
makes it more of a gut punch. No, and again, this
Mm.
is why I love to look up the reason. This is why I wish all songs came with this is the story behind the song. This is what I was
Yeah,
thinking of.
yeah.
This is what
Yeah.
inspired this song. Because there's songs that I'll listen to and I'm like, what happened in this person's life for them to
Mm,
write this
mm,
song? Who is this song about? What was the
yeah.
experience they had that said, this was so impactful to me that I need to write a song about it? Um,
Mm.
I'm just so curious about that. And now knowing that, there's a lot in the song that and also actually dogs, plows, and but is it bows? It's probably bows. I'm reading it. It says
Bows, dogs,
it is
plows, and
bows.
bows.
Okay.
Yeah,
We move
yeah.
through each pose, struggling in our separate ways, mantras and hymns,
Mm,
unfolding limbs, looking for release through the pain. It makes so much sense that this is based off an
yeah.
experience of yoga. Wow.
Yeah.
Um, and then now these tears, guess I'm still your child.
Yeah,
Wow.
it's pretty devastating, isn't it? Like in a beautiful way, it's quite a devastating song.
Yeah.
Um, just
Especially
yeah,
knowing the story of, Theo's death and then Ion,
mm,
then what Ion goes on to become,
yeah,
which is very much the opposite of what his dad
mm,
want, like
yeah,
the almost the like what everything that my dad is, I'm going to become the opposite of those things. And I
yeah,
think
yeah.
not to get too psychological or personal on a podcast we're putting out into the world, but there is something for me in this of looking at the relationship between a father and a child specifically. And granted, it's a father and a
Mm,
son in the song, but like I see how I feel when I edit this, if I actually edit this out. But like the relationship I have with my dad and how
mm,
um there's it's good now and there is some good stuff, but there's also hard things. And I think most people,
mm,
would say
of
there's good
course,
and
yeah.
hard in their relationship with their father.
Mm,
But um so I think it hit me because there were certain things that was like, okay, so verse 2 is remember the breakwaters down by the waves. I first found my courage knowing daddy could save. I could hold back the
mm,
tide with my dad by my side.
yeah.
And I think there's something in this as I was listening to it of the grief of not necessarily having that growing up and having the struggles
Mm,
of that.
mm,
And
Mm.
then, not to get theological, but as as a Christian whose relationship with God is that of, we refer to him as father,
mm,
having
mm,
that, like there was almost these two threads being like woven in my mind as I'm listening to this of one of like the earthly dad who's, you got an interesting relationship with a discordant
mm,
relationship
mm,
with maybe, and then having the father, God,
mm.
changing that and having that be the actual, um we couldn't talk much at all. It's been so many years. Now these tears. Guess I'm still your child. Just there are some really interesting for me theological things I was pulling out of this as I'm listening because everything that I
Mm.
listen to, read, watch, interact with has some sort of theological impact on me. It's just the way that I am emotionally.
Of course,
Um,
yeah.
so I think that one was definitely the biggest because of
The
all of the
standout one.
things. Yeah, that was the standout
Yeah.
one.
I mean,
Although,
it's interesting. It's funny that it's funny that there you went not to get personal and got personal, and
yeah,
then said not to
Yeah.
get theological and then got theological.
Thoughtful. Yeah.
Um, but
you're
I
welcome.
think it's interesting what you say. So I have. It sounds like I'm trying to flex. It's not. I have a really good relationship with my dad. Like I always have. But I think for me, the one thing that still hits me about this song is
Mhm.
a man, an English man
Mm.
singing unapologetically and
Mm,
very clearly about how much he loves his dad.
yeah.
And those really tender lines, yeah, I could hold back the tide with my dad by my side. And when he
Mhm.
finishes it,
Yep.
with my dad by my side, got my dad by my side with me.
Mhm.
And I think my family, my generation and my dad's, we've become good at communicating how we feel
Mhm.
and stuff, but I think there's still something so raw about that song
Yeah.
Mm.
that challenges me and goes, gosh, could I, like, that's quite, there's a vulnerability there that
Mhm.
is quite un-English.
Yeah.
really, to kind of get up and go, I love my dad. He's really great.
Yeah.
Isn't he lovely?
Mhm.
And also, when he released this song, his dad was still alive. He
Yeah.
played this song to his dad.
Wow.
I just think there's a real bravery in that of
Yeah.
just yeah, it just
Man,
really hit me from it.
it's
There you go.
it's
Yeah.
so again, it's the background makes it better. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
That's I mean that's not all I'm
Mm.
saying. I've said that a few times. It's even no. Okay, moving on.
Go on.
The
Is there
other
another?
one that I really liked, even just apart from the story, is The Nest That Sailed the Sky because it was an instrumental.
Mm, yeah.
It was very beautiful. I have an album on my Spotify list that are just instrumental songs that when I really need to focus, I put on these songs and then there's no lyrics
Mm,
because the lyrics will distract me because I like to sing. I can't help myself. And I'm like, if I put on this album, it's my focus album. I'm gonna concentrate. I'm gonna
yeah.
get my work done. So I do appreciate instrumentals. I love video game music because most of the time it's instrumental, and there's actually research and discussion around video game helping you focus when you need to do
Mm,
a project or when you're trying to not get distracted by things. Because the way that they write the music, especially during boss battles, you're really supposed to hone in. Anyway, that's a different point. I love that because it was instrumental and it was
mm,
just really beautifully orchestrated. And then,
yeah.
of course, now knowing the story of OVO, not the song, the actual story of the album, and I guess where it comes in that, and also having that be right before Make Tomorrow, which is the finale,
Mm,
was just really cool. So,
yeah. It's just this moment, the little moment of quiet,
mhm,
this kind of peaceful moment.
yeah.
In the and I guess that sort of links to. I realize I haven't said much about why it's nostalgic.
Mhm.
But interestingly, that song is one of basically there's kind of two or three distinct layers of nostalgia. They don't need
Yeah.
hours of unpacking. Don't worry, that sounds like a lot. Um,
6 hours
this,
later.
but that was kind of part of the second wave of nostalgia for me was that
Yeah.
song
Mm.
because are we right to launch into the nostalgia
Let's
side?
go.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, we're
Perfect
totally
timing.
So we'll come back to that. We'll kind of park Nest for a moment. But so this came out in the year 2000. I
Mhm.
didn't listen to it in the year 2000.
Mhm.
Or at least I didn't listen to it closely. I was 6 years old.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And but this was an album that my parents had.
Okay.
Um, so basically my whole family are Peter Gabriel fans. My mum particularly and me. But this was one of the albums that would be played in the car. We had a CD player
Mm,
in the car, and so it was kind of there as we were driving around. You know, we drive up to Wales every October half term to visit my grandparents, and so we'd have albums that we put on, and there were a few different ones, and initially quite a few of them were concept albums that would tell stories. And um, the funny thing about being in the car is you can't hear all the details
yep.
and you can't always make out the lyrics. So the idea that there was a story behind this took me years to actually
Yeah.
grasp. But there are certainly the louder pieces of music on the
Mhm.
album. There's a sense in which they're just kind of ingrained in my mind in some
Yeah.
way, in
Yeah.
that they would have been on in the car. And they just sort of sunk deep into kind of my being
Yeah.
not to get ridiculously over the top. Um, and so to me, this album kind of, but also again, knowing retrospectively that it was at the Millennium Dome, it now conjures up the vague memories I have of that. So
Mm,
there is this sense of kind of childhood family
yeah.
in a safe way. I know family means different things for different people, but family in a
Yeah.
very safe, warm way, exciting way. We're traveling together, kind of, these
Yeah.
moments, but also kind of when you're not the driver, I guess a long drive is a moment of stillness. Sometimes there's this moment of quiet. I'm sitting here
Yeah.
and I couldn't read in the car because I get travel sick. So it was a
Yeah.
moment of just resting. Um, and so a lot of these albums have a kind of a very there's sort of a lot of comfort in them
Yeah.
because they're moments of quiet. And so it is just this kind of childhood album that was there in the background, along with a few others. And then it got caught up in a second wave of nostalgia, which was that in 2008, a really good film came out, which was Wall-E.
I was
Um,
wondering if this is
That's how
Yeah.
that's how I know who Peter Gabriel is because of that movie.
Yeah. So this film came out called Wall-E. And at this point, so I would have been 14. I couldn't I would have known that Peter Gabriel was this artist that mum was a fan of, and I'd heard a few songs in the kitchen and in the
Right.
car. And we're watching this film, and it's a really good film. I love that film. And we get to the credits. And of course, like this was pre-Marvel making like a post-credit sequence, like a thing.
Yeah.
So we all just get up, and then this song starts playing. And as we're almost out, Mum goes, "Hold on, that sounds like Peter Gabriel. Can we stay?" And we're going, "Oh, Mum, come on, like we got to get this. Let's go." We just leave. She said, "No, hold on, I just want to listen to the song." So we all sit back down, and I'm 14 years old. I've just watched a kids' film that I'm kind of reluctant to admit I really loved. Like I'm kind of sitting there a bit awkwardly. And then this song starts playing. It's called Down to Earth, and I'd heartily recommend it. And it is beautiful. Like it is astonishing. It's Peter Gabriel and the Soweto Gospel Choir
Wow.
singing this song about how fantastic Earth is. And I heard it, and something just clicked. I was like, whoa, whatever that was, I'd need some more of that. And
Yeah.
so kind of went home and was like, right, Mum, what you got? Hit me with it. Like, come on, let's raid your CDs. And she had a live album from Peter Gabriel. She had some Genesis stuff, and she had OVO. And I could chat for hours on any one of those three options. They were all incredibly bold. I will say, I remember I was doing some hoovering in the kitchen. I used to do housework for extra pocket money, and I thought, oh, I'll put on one of those Genesis albums, and this Mellotron kicked in on a song called Watch of the Skies, and I had to turn the hoover off and sit down because I was just like, I have no category for this kind of music. But OVO was one of them. So I'm like, start listening to this, and I'm actually paying attention this time. And because I'm listening on my headphones, I can pick out all of the details that I couldn't hear before.
Yeah.
So all the little sound effects and things, and I'm kind of and I can remember just like constantly, like on the way to and from school, having this album on, unpacking like what is going on. I know, so it's like you were saying, Caitlin, when you're like, there are stories being told here, but I can't quite work out what they are.
Yeah.
And just being amazed by it, that music could sound like that. And it probably is helped by the fact, it's helped and hindered by the fact that it's a soundtrack album, right?
Yeah.
Because A, you lose some of the context, but B, he does stuff that you probably wouldn't do on an album that's just meant to be released as an album.
Yeah.
There's kind of these detours and instrumental moments. And just being amazed, thinking I didn't realize that I had listened to music before, but it had never grabbed me like this. I'm just thinking, wow, this is unbelievable. How like, just kind of how did I not know that this was possible? And so I became a big fan. And then in 2010, he did a tour with an orchestra. And I'd never been to a gig before. But I begged my parents. I was like, look, you've got to buy me. We have to go, right? Because if we don't, and I remember saying, oh, he's so old, he's gonna die soon, right?
2010, 15 years
2010,
ago.
he was 60, right?
Oh my gosh.
Like, and my parents are now 61. But at the time, I was just like, he's so old, he's gonna die. We've got to go see him on this tour. And
Okay.
the tickets in 2010, me and my mum went. They were £100 each.
Wow.
The ticket got us into row 11 in the O2 Arena, in the space where originally the OVO album would have been performed.
Wow.
It got us a t-shirt. I've still got the t-shirt. A copy of his the album that he'd released at the time, which was an orchestral covers album. And I've got the ticket still. It's very precious. 27th of March 2010. Very precious memory. And the first half of this show was all covers, orchestral covers, which was all right. And the second half was his songs. And I remember having this very weird feeling. I'd never been to a gig before. And the feeling of seeing him on stage and being like, that's genuinely the bloke who wrote that album.
Yeah.
Like, and obviously he played music from lots of albums, but the ones that I found most strange to hear were two that he played from this album. Because I was just like, I can't believe this is the guy who wrote these songs. And so he did Downside Up as a duet with his daughter. What's quite funny is he'd done a tour before. I hadn't gone, I was too little. In 2002 he did a tour, and they would perform that song upside down. They would be put in a harness and would be running around on a platform upside down. There's footage of it. You should look it up. It's phenomenal because he looks like he's having a fantastic time, and his daughter looks like she's having the worst time in her life. Like, it's great. He wasn't upside down for this one, but he performed this song, and I just remember, I mean, I cried a lot during the gig, to be perfectly honest. I cry a lot of music. It was beautiful. And then for the encore, he came on and he did two songs, and then he ended with The Nest That Sailed the Sky, which is quite an odd thing to end a show on. It's not kind of his big finishing number. It was just this really gentle, quiet, and I remember sitting there in awe. So I was 16, nearly 16 at this point, and just sitting in awe of this, just thinking, like, what a strange move, ending your gig with this quiet piece of music, really gentle piece of music, and then just sort of walking out. Like, there was no kind of, he sort of done his, oh, you've been a fantastic audience stuff. He just finishes this, and then that's it.
Wow.
And it just left me, like, in a really good way, just left me like quite shaken. I was like, oh my, what just happened? And again, that was a moment where music kind of just expanded more for me. So now I listen to Downside Up and Nest That Sailed the Sky, and for me the nostalgia there is the first live music I experienced.
Wow.
Is wound up in that. And then years later hearing Tower That Ate People as well, as this kind of heavy, he's back with his band, this electronic, almost metal kind of song. So for me, the nostalgia kind of extends from like probably around 2004 or 5 to 2014. So there's essentially there is a 10-year period in that this album kind of conjures up for me. And it also so happens to be just it was a really nice 10-year period in my life. Like things were going pretty good at that time. That's not just, I should also say things are going pretty good now, just in case my fiance is listening.
You'll, by the time this comes out, you will be
I'll probably be married.
about to be married. It's coming out in August.
Okay.
So
well, there you go.
Love that.
But yeah, so again, not to get too deep, but there was a time later, especially when I moved to Birmingham from around sort of so 2014 kind of is within that, but after that sort of time, there was a period of quite difficult time for me, mental health and kind of other things, in which music took on another kind of role, I guess. But for me, it conjures up this kind of era of like just discovery, where I just felt like I was discovering new music constantly. Like, and while I was at school, I got an evening job in a pharmacy, and I got £200 a month, and every month I spent the £200 on live music or CDs. Anything that was left over was
Wow.
spent on just accumulating music because
Yeah.
I was like, I just need more of this. And so it's interesting that I wouldn't say this is my favorite album ever. Not necessarily even my favorite Peter Gabriel album.
Yeah.
But I think when we were talking about nostalgia and you were like, pick something nostalgic, for me, this is the most nostalgic Peter Gabriel album.
Yeah.
Because it feels like it was so kind of enmeshed in my life for quite a long time, even before I realized it was, basically.
That's really good.
I love that.
That was a long ramble. My goodness. Feel free to edit that heavily.
Nope. It's staying in.
It's honestly on par. Like, we ramble all the time. So
that's
if our guest rambles, they're just doing what we do.
I think at one point in one of our first few episodes, I made a joke we should call this the Ramblers Clubhouse because of how much Brianna and I just go off on tangent.
There is probably also something about if you get 3 neurodivergent people, even in the same digital room, heaven help anyone who's listening in.
Yeah. Are you calling
get them on something they're passionate about?
Yeah, honestly, most of our guests have been neurodivergent people, so
yeah.
I think, you know, it's like it probably is an ADHD thing that like if I love something, I love something. I find it there are very few artists, there's one or two, but there's very few musical artists who I'm kind of who my opinion would be, yeah, they're all right. You know, I've got a couple of albums, but I don't, you know, I'm usually either I'm not interested or, oh my goodness, I need everything. Give me everything, you know. Yeah.
That's exactly how I am. That's how the 6-year-old my friends have that is one of my roommates. That's how he is with Minecraft.
I feel we should translate for the English audience that roommate in America is the equivalent of housemate.
Correct.
You don't have a 6-year-old roommate in the garage with you. For any English listeners who've not come across this before, in America, roommate is the equivalent of housemate or flatmate.
Correct.
This has led to some interesting conversations. In when Caitlin's been over, it's come up a couple of times.
It has.
So funny.
It's too long in America, and all the words just keep going back to the American way.
Here, roommate is either if you're in a very unfortunate university situation. Most universities here wouldn't put you in the same room as someone, but either you've ended up in a very unfortunate situation there, like you'd be in the same flat or something, but you would never you wouldn't be sleeping in the same room as another person.
You're joking me.
Yeah, no, that's weird here. That's quite unusual. So it's either
American colleges love to shove like 5 kids into a room, so
which is pretty grim.
I had my first 2 years I had 2 roommates. Like we shared a room. We all had bunk beds, but we had a desk and then bunk bed above it. And we had
and so you might have, you know, we might have roommates on a school trip if you're staying in a hotel on a school trip or something. Or roommates is a euphemism for people who are together but are pretending that they're not, and so they're roommates. You know.
That's great.
Wow.
Yeah.
And they were roommates.
Exactly.
And they were roommates.
My gosh. That makes so much sense. How is it that I've been in and out of England for the last, what year is this?
Decade?
7 years? It's not been a whole decade. It's just been 7 years.
Yeah, close.
Nobody told
Rounding
me.
up.
Rounding
Yeah,
up.
no, it's
how many times? I mean, granted, I imagine enough people watch American media for them to know when an American is saying, "Yeah, my roommate," it's probably not implied.
Yeah, people have probably internally translated it most times, where they've just gone, "All right, she means
House
she means that." Yeah.
Also, why? I lived there for 2 years and nobody said this to me. Nobody thought to say Caitlin. This is what that means.
That person is
Yeah.
not your roommate. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is mind-blowing. Okay, we're gonna do one of our last things, which is, Ben, I want you to rate this album, but as a nostalgia rating, not a quality. It's
Okay.
how nostalgic. I think you kind of already answered this a little bit,
Oh.
but on a scale of 1 to 5, for you, how nostalgic is this album?
Gosh, I mean it's going to be at least 4. Um, part of me is never likes to give a perfect score to anything just because I'm like, I'm one of those
like
kinds
my
of
rating
people.
system.
Like, yeah, yeah. Gosh, I mean, this album. I mean, I do enjoy it as an album. I think it's a good album,
Mhm.
but to me, it's completely inseparable from the memories and nostalgia,
Yeah.
both of big stuff like family stuff and holidays and live shows, but also, for example, like I said, with Low Light, this taken me a very long time to get to the rating. I can just picture, I can feel the same feeling I had lying in bed with the lights off, with my headphones in, playing that track over and over again, just to be like, what is this, and what is the effect that this is having on me? Like, this is making me feel something, and
Yeah.
what is that? And just listening to it hundreds of times.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, does it have to be a whole number?
Nope.
Can I go 4.5?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Because I think it's as near to perfect nostalgia as maybe you can get, but there might be other things that just maybe other things that outside of music that are a bit more nostalgic, but yeah, basically you can't get much more nostalgic than this.
Yeah.
For me. Yeah.
Love that.
Yeah, that's great.
Other people are probably like, Millennium Dome, what trash? Like, what are you talking about? Like, this is, what an embarrassment. But yeah,
they're probably not listening to this podcast, so
no.
And if you are, be nice.
Yeah.
Don't be like that. Don't be one of those people.
Don't at me, as they used to say.
Me. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do we not say that anymore? Should I stop saying that?
I'm the only person who I've heard say it in the last couple of years. And every time I say it, people laugh and they go, "Oh yeah, don't at me." But no, yeah.
Note to self: stop saying that. Okay. Is there anything you want to advertise on the podcast?
Anything you want to advertise?
Yep.
Well, so it's interesting. When is this coming out? August. I have been actually working on a podcast with a friend because we suddenly realized, we were like, hey, wait a minute, we're 2 white guys. Why haven't we recorded a podcast together? Like, what's going on?
You're not hitting the mark.
Yeah. So I've been, but what we're doing is we're recording a whole series of it before we start releasing, which is quite funny because in the first episode I make reference to having just got engaged, and by the time it comes out I might actually be married. And we're recording the last episode next Saturday, and what this is, it's called Obscure Poets of History. And what we do is we pick a really, really famous historical poet, because it's just basically the title is just a bad joke.
Yeah.
So we pick a really famous poet, and we spend about 45 minutes. I think the first one's a bit longer, but about 45 minutes just chatting through their life and their poetry, taking the mick out of it. Not in a their bad way, but just laughing at it, basically digging out any humor we can from their life, from their poetry, mapping their career trajectory against what we call the Phil Collins arc. I won't explain that. It's a whole thing. You got to listen to the podcast if you want to know. I would imagine by the time this episode of your podcast goes out, we might be nearly ready. I've got to do all the editing on them, and I'm quite slow. But maybe give me a follow on Instagram where I am the Park Bench Poet. And my profile picture is a sort of painting style thing, like an old classical painting portrait, but with my face edited onto it. It's the Park Bench Poet. And when we get this podcast, Obscure Poets from History, going, I will be promoting it on there, and there'll be some other places. You don't have to be a poetry fan. You don't have to know anything about them. The kind of unofficial tagline is everything you need to know to pretend that you've read whichever poet. So the idea is you could know nothing about them, and by the end, if somebody said, "Oh, have you read any, Tennyson?" you could go, "Oh, yes, obviously there's the obvious Lady of Shalott, but I prefer his more obscure works, like maybe Kraken or something." And wasn't it unfortunate when this happened? You could basically throw some stuff in, sound knowledgeable, and have hopefully some humorous takes on it. But yeah, so that's basically all I've got to plug.
That's great, and it sounds like it's going to be a very fun podcast to listen to. So
I've certainly enjoyed recording it. The test is whether anyone enjoys listening to it. So we'll see.
Brianna and I have had this discussion many, many times over the last. Oh gosh, what episode is this going to be? Oh, I can't remember. Something in the 30s, I think. And had that. We're having a fun time recording it, even if in the end nobody listens to it. It was fun. It's out there now, and the aliens, when they come and pick over our world one day, they'll be like,
"What if this is the only thing they find?"
Then good for them, honestly.
And they're like, "We don't know what nostalgia means, but it was clearly important to these people, and here are the most important works of art from human civilization, and it's going to be Redwall."
I mean, good thing that I'm doing
Mario
super long summaries. Then now they'll know what happens in the story.
They can recreate them.
They will
Redwall, Super Mario. What was it? Tale of Despero.
Diana Wynne Jones, Emma.
Multiple conversions.
Right there, you've got the whole. You've got the whole of human culture summarized in those.
Yeah.
Talking
literally
about
what else would you add?
Oh my gosh.
Aliens, if you're listening to this one day.
Yeah.
As
Shout
a quote from my favorite podcast once said, be kind to us. Because one day you might end up like us. So
good point.
Alright, well, I'm gonna wow, that got off so far off track. Thank you guys so much for listening to this episode of the Readers Clubhouse. If you like this discussion and you want to hear more, you can find us on YouTube and Spotify every other Friday. You can find Ben at the Park Bench Poet on Instagram, and then check out his podcast when that comes out. Check out our episode description for our social media links, and join us in the Clubhouse next time as we discuss the next book in our Redwall journey, Triss. We've got lots to say about that. Why does your face look like that, Brianna?
I didn't realize this was in between that and Triss.
Brianna, we have Tagarung, the Unicorn Chronicles, OVO, then Triss, then Lumhedge.
Oh, okay.
And then Rackety Tam, and then Hyrule Lane, and then Frankenstein.
Yes.
So
Frankenstein. Wow.
Yes, that's our Halloween episode.
Okay. Oh, well, I'll definitely read that. I did try to read along with the Redwall books, and I'm not going to lie, I really enjoyed them, but I fell so far behind and got distracted by many, many things.
I mean, you do have
married.
ADHD.
That's
so.
Like, there's that also.
Yeah, I'm also getting married. Yeah.
Yeah. That's a huge
quite distracting.
Yeah.
I'm going to edit all of this out because this is irrelevant. But also, Brianna and I have discussed so many times that as far as we know, you and our dad are the only, and like one or two of Brianna's other friends, I think, are the only people Robin has listened to.
I don't know if Robin's caught up because Robin's
nobody's caught
life
up.
has been crazy. But...
Is what I'll say.
Yeah,
there's nobody who's caught up.
Quite caught up,
No, but you guys are the only ones who have said to me, at least, or to Brianna, that you have listened to this podcast. And we mention you in a few episodes, actually, as our only listeners. If you ever do get caught
I'll
up,
let you know when I catch up.
Yeah, it can be like, you mentioned me on this. That's it. Yeah. So I think we actually mentioned you in the Unicorn Chronicles, which is
Oh.
Did we?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
We can't
It all
remember.
blends together.
That was last week.
after a
We should
certain
know
point.
that. But
That was last week? Jeez.
Yeah. All
Feels
right.
like it was an eternity ago.
It does. Well, I'm gonna edit all of this out, but we're gonna
Yes.
we usually
Right.
say bye at the end of this. So I'm just gonna say
Yeah.
bye.
Bye.
Bye.